And only on 10 emotional family members speaking out after their loved one was found dead outside an apartment complex in Fort Lauderdale.
And police announcing this afternoon a man has been arrested in connection with the killing. A Local 10's Rush Lone live now at Fort Lauderdale with the exclusive. Rush.
Okay, let me set this up. We're in this beauty salon. This is the salon owned by the victim's mom. Okay, and we just spoke with her. This is 30-year-old Denanishia. I want to show you something here. The family has just gotten video from inside of where police say Daneshia was shot to death. And you see a lot of blood there, right?
Yes. Wherever you see the blue is how he drug her through the apartment on the floor. We have 3 videos actually.
So this was
each area in the apartment.
This was a very bloody scene.
She put up a fight.
She put up a fight, and I want to show you these faces here. This is her dad, who's standing next to me. Fort Lauderdale police just had a news conference, and this family here is absolutely heartbroken. Let's get to the story.
It was early morning in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The kind of morning where the city is barely awake. Streets still quiet, sun just starting to show up. And sometime before 7:30 that morning, somebody made a call. When officers arrived at Northwest 2nd Street, what they found near a dumpster stopped them cold. A woman, naked, covered with cardboard, left there like she was nothing, like somebody had done what they did and then tried to just hide it and walk away. Now let me tell you something. The details of how this woman was found, the condition she was left in, it tells you everything you need to know about the kind of person who did this to her. Because you do not treat a human being that way unless something is very, very wrong with you. Her name was Daneshia Heller. She was 30 years old, and everybody who loved her called her Nene. And by the time the sun was fully up that morning, her family's entire world had already fallen apart. When the clock strikes midnight, the truth comes out. I'm 12 a.m. crime, and every single day I bring you real cases of domestic violence that turn deadly. The stories the system tried to bury, the victims who deserve justice. If you're about that raw, unfiltered truth, hit subscribe. New case drops every day at midnight. Don't sleep on justice. This is 12 a.m. crime. Nene was born on August 15th, 1995. She grew up in Fort Lauderdale, and if you knew her, really knew her, the one thing people keep saying is that she had this energy about her. The kind of person who, the moment she walked into a room, was already reaching out to hug you. That was just who she was. Her mother, Tamikia Connor, owns a beauty salon right there in Fort Lauderdale. Just blocks, and I mean blocks, from where her daughter would later be found. That salon was Tamikia's thing, her pride, the place she built. And that week, instead of the usual noise of a working salon, the laughter, the conversations, the everyday life of that space, her family gathered there in grief. That salon became a place of mourning, and no mother should ever have to experience that. Nene had 3 daughters, 3 little girls, ages 5, 7, and 8. And those babies are the reason this story hits as hard as it does. Because at the end of all of this, those are the faces you keep coming back to. 3 children who needed their mother, 3 children who are now growing up without her. Her father, Davis Heller, loved his daughter deeply. And when the news hit him, he did what a lot of grieving parents do. He went to social media, because that was the only place that felt big enough to hold what he was feeling. He wrote about his pain without dressing it up. No filter. Just a father whose child had been taken from him violently, and who was not going to be quiet about it. And her aunt, LaToya Snell, she showed up too. Because that is what this family does. They show up for Nene, even after Nene could no longer show up for herself. Now, the family has said clearly, they did not know the man who police say did this. They did not recognize his name. They could not connect him to their daughter's life in any way that made sense to them. And that, right there, is the part that keeps nagging at you as this story unfolds. Because how does a woman end up in an apartment with someone her family says they had never heard of and end up dead? That question does not have a clean answer yet, but the evidence that came out of that apartment, that tells its own story. Here is where things get hard to sit with. After the body was found, the family obtained video footage from inside the apartment where police say Daneshia was killed, and when they watched that footage, they saw exactly what had happened in there. Not the full picture, but enough. Enough to understand that Nene did not just die. She fought. The video showed blood. A lot of it. And it showed, through the markers placed by investigators, where her body had been dragged across that apartment floor. Not one room, multiple areas, like someone had moved her, deliberately, through that space, before taking her outside and leaving her near that dumpster covered in cardboard. Her aunt looked at that footage and said it directly.
Put up a fight.
And that matters, because when you are sitting with the grief of losing someone, knowing that they did not give up, that they pushed back, that is something. It does not make it less painful, but it says everything about who Nene was, even in the worst moment of her life. She was shot in the head. Her family confirmed that. Execution style is how her mother described it. A woman so wrecked by grief and rage that she could barely get the words out. Because what do you even say when you are standing there trying to understand why someone would do that to your child? What answer could possibly be enough? The scene inside that apartment was described as very bloody. 3 separate video angles covering different areas of the space. And investigators, when they later processed that scene, found what they needed to build their case. At this point, nobody had been arrested yet. But the evidence in that apartment was already pointing somewhere. The question was, where was the man who had been there? And the answer to that came faster than anyone expected. Let's talk about what the evidence actually shows, because this part of the story deserves to be told straight. Daneshia Heller was inside that apartment when she was shot in the head. That is where it happened. Not outside, not in the street. Inside. And after she was killed, her body was dragged across the floor of that apartment, through multiple areas, and then taken outside and dumped near a dumpster on the 1500 block of Northwest 2nd Street. Her clothes were gone, and whoever left her there covered her body with cardboard before walking away. Now hold on, because that sequence of events matters more than people realize. This was not a moment of panic. You do not drag a person through multiple rooms, remove their clothing, carry them outside, and then stop to cover them with cardboard. All of that takes time. All of that takes thought. That is a person making decisions, one after another, about what to do with a woman they had just killed. Her mother, Tamikia, could barely hold herself together when she talked about it. She said her daughter was shot execution style. And when you understand what that means, a shot to the head, deliberate, close, and then you add everything that came after, the dragging, the dumping, the cardboard, you start to understand why this family is not just grieving. They are angry. Deeply, righteously angry. Nene was 30 years old. She had her whole life in front of her. 3 daughters who needed her. A mother whose salon is just down the road. A father who loved her to pieces. And she spent her last moments in that apartment fighting for her life. Her aunt said it, and it bears repeating. She put up a fight. The blood in that apartment, the way it was spread across multiple areas, the physical evidence of what happened in there, it tells you that Daneshia did not accept what was being done to her. She pushed back, and that is the kind of woman she was, but she did not make it out, and the man who did this walked away from that building and thought that was going to be the end of it. He was wrong. Here is where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming, not in the way it usually happens in these cases. Fort Lauderdale detectives were working the scene on Northwest 2nd Street. They had a body. They had a crime scene inside that apartment. Bloody, clearly violent, clearly deliberate. And they had a name to find. But the way Altavious Powell ended up in handcuffs is not the straightforward story you might expect. He was not caught because someone recognized him at the scene. He was not pulled over in connection with Daneshia's murder. What happened is that detectives, through their investigation, came across Powell while he was already being picked up, on charges that had nothing to do with her death. He was arrested on something else entirely. And it was during that process that investigators started connecting the dots between him and what had happened in that apartment. They worked it. They dug into it. And then the DNA came back. The results placed Altavious Powell at that crime scene. His DNA was there, in that apartment, where Daneshia Heller had been killed and dragged across the floor. That was not a coincidence. That was evidence. And at that point, the case locked in around him. But then something else came out. And this is the part that sent shockwaves through Fort Lauderdale and beyond. According to the arrest warrant, Powell had told his own child's mother, the woman who shares a child with him, that he had killed 2 women. 2. Not 1. 2. Be so for real right now. You commit a murder, and then you tell someone close to you about it. And not just that, you say there was another one? Now, the police were very clear about what they found when they looked into that claim. They investigated it, they took it seriously, and their conclusion was that there was no evidence of a second victim, no body, no missing persons case that connected. Nothing, as far as Fort Lauderdale police were concerned. Altavious Powell was responsible for 1 homicide, Daneshia Heller's, and 1 homicide only. But the audacity of that statement, telling someone he killed 2 women, that was already out in the world. And once a thing like that gets out, you cannot pull it back. Social media picked it up and ran with it so fast. Posts started spreading across Broward County, claiming there was a serial killer loose. People were putting out vehicle descriptions, completely made up. Claims of multiple bodies. Panic in the comments. Families in Fort Lauderdale genuinely afraid, wondering if their loved ones were safe, reaching out to police because they had seen something online that terrified them. And right in the middle of all of that noise and chaos, Nene's family was still sitting in that salon, still processing the fact that she was gone, still trying to figure out how to explain to 3 little girls, ages 5, 7, and 8, that their mother was not coming home. That's wild. And it is also deeply unfair, because while the internet was turning their daughter's death into a conspiracy theory, this family was trying to grieve. They were trying to breathe. And every new wave of misinformation just ripped the wound open again. Fort Lauderdale police had seen enough. They held a press conference specifically to address the social media firestorm. They stood in front of cameras and said it plainly.
We do not have a serial killer that we're looking at in the city of Fort Lauderdale. As far as we know, Altavious Powell's only committed 1 homicide, is the one we're referencing right now. This stemmed from a homicide that occurred last week of a Black female found discarded next to a dumpster. Detectives through investigative means were able to track down and verify that Powell was our suspect in this case. He was subsequently arrested and charged. It doesn't just stop at the social media point. It grows legs, as we've seen. We've seen it start off with this: we have a serial killer, so now it's developed to 4 or 5 bodies. They started locating or naming locations of possible serial killer. So, please double check and verify any information you get before you just blatantly post it out into social media.
Altavious Powell was charged with first-degree murder. He was taken into custody and held without bond. The motive, as of the time of this story, was still under investigation. But the case against him, the DNA, the circumstances of his arrest, the statement he reportedly made, that was already built. The question now was, what would happen when this went to court?
When you walk into the beauty salon that Tamikia Connor owns just blocks away from where her daughter was murdered, the pain is overwhelming.
That's devastating. That was, yeah, that's devastating.
Awful.
Daneshia Heller, 30, was murdered last Wednesday, say police, and her naked body found near a dumpster, the 1500 block of Northwest 2nd Street. Police say she was shot, her aunt, Latoya Snell.
He didn't have to do that to her. She didn't deserve that.
According to police, Daneshia's body was dragged from an apartment complex.
You shoot her in the head. Like, what could she have done or said to you that you think that you want to kill and shoot my baby execution style like that? I don't want to do that. Why you want to do that?
Arrested, Altavious Powell. According to his arrest warrant, he told his child's mother that he killed 2 women. Police have no evidence of that, they say.
Baby, we love you, and even though you're not here with us in body, you are always going to be with us in spirit. I love you so much.
Denanishia leaves behind 3 young daughters.
She gonna fight. She
Gonna fight for herself.
I want to show you the faces here of this family. This is Mom. And Mom, thank you for talking to us. And this is Dad.
Altavious Powell, 34 years old, was taken into custody on Thursday, February 19th, 2026, one day after Daneshia Heller's body was found near that dumpster on Northwest 2nd Street. He was charged with first-degree premeditated murder. No bond, meaning he sat in that cell while the case was being built around him, and he was not going anywhere. Now, the legal process in a case like this moves on its own timeline. Courts have their own rhythm, and this story was still unfolding at the time of this narration. But what was already established is significant. The DNA placed him at the scene. His own words, told to his child's mother, placed him at the center of this, and the physical evidence inside that apartment painted a picture that was hard to argue with. The family, for their part, made clear that they wanted justice, not just answers, justice. They wanted this to go all the way, and with a first-degree murder charge carrying the weight that it does in the state of Florida, the stakes in that courtroom were going to be real. The motive was still listed as under investigation, and that gap, not knowing exactly why, is one of the hardest things for a family to sit with, because sometimes people need a reason. They need to understand how their person ended up in a situation that cost them their life, and when that reason has not been officially given, the mind fills in the space with questions that have no easy answers. What we know is this. Altavious Powell walked into that apartment with Daneshia Heller, and only one of them walked out. And the evidence, the DNA, the statement he made, and the condition in which Nene's body was found, all of it pointed at him, directly. Her father, Davis Heller, wrote something on Facebook after he got the news, and it stayed with people who read it. He said he was deeply hurting. He talked about how violent her death was. He used her full name and her dates, August 15th, 1995 to February 18th, 2026, like he was planting a marker for the world to see. He said he would not stop crying, not stop searching, not stop seeking for her. He said, "My baby Nene, Daddy will always forever love you and ride to the end for you." That is a father. That is what love looks like when it has nowhere left to go except out into the world in words. And somewhere in Fort Lauderdale, 3 little girls, 5, 7, and 8 years old, are growing up now without their mother. They are going to have questions one day. Questions about who she was, what she was like, why she is not here. And the people who love Nene are going to have to find a way to answer those questions while carrying their own grief at the same time. Let's not forget that this case also became a moment that forced a real conversation about what we do on social media when tragedy strikes. Because the moment those details hit the internet, A woman found naked near a dumpster, a suspect who allegedly said he killed 2 people. People ran with it, they posted, they shared, they added to it, and none of them stopped to think about what that was doing to a family that was already in the worst week of their lives. Innocent people were being named. Fake vehicle descriptions were spreading. Families in Broward County were afraid, and none of that fear was grounded in anything real. At the end of the day, a woman is dead, a mother is gone, 3 daughters are left behind, and a family is carrying a weight that no one should ever have to carry. She fought for herself when it mattered most, and she deserved so much better than the way this world treated her at the end. Her name was Daneshia Heller, and the people who loved her are not going to let the world forget it. Say it again for the people in the back. Her name was Nene, and she mattered. Behind every headline is a real person, a real family, and they deserve to be remembered the right way. If this story moved you, share it. And if you are not already subscribed to 12 AM Crime, now is the time. We are here every week for the stories that matter.